Hey everybody, it's Eric live alongside Rod with our Maryland post-game show presented by Fanduel Sportsbook, your go-to source for betting on the sports you love to watch. Whether it's a parlay or you just want to stick to the money line, you'll find all the odds you need on the Fanduel app. Easy to download and you can get started right away. Head on over to our Fanduel player of the game at slido.com and then use the hashtag is TIFNOTS. That's TFFINOTS, so you can vote for who you think the player of the game was today. I'm going to guess who it was. I'm going to guess it won't be much of a surprise, but head on over there. We'd appreciate it. And also, quick note by FanDuel. I had not told my wife that I did put a little bit of money on Michigan State, and we were listening to the shows as we were driving into the game today. And so she's like, "Well, oh, you be on the game." So yeah, be careful when they listen to your shows. Michigan State returned back to the comfortable confines of the Breslin Center and looked ultra comfortable, obliterating Maryland 91-48. The second biggest home Big Ten thrashing in MSU history of 43 points. The biggest, of course, was against Michigan of 50 points. This is a game that Michigan State led wire to wire, although they were tied, I guess, briefly at 4-4. Never really in doubt. Like I said, it was tied at 4. Then Michigan State went on a 20-0 run. It was 24-4 before you knew it, and just kind of cruise in from there to 46-23 halftime lead. And the same thing is that, so that was interesting, is that was the same halftime scores we saw against San Jose State earlier this year. The difference, of course, was the performance in the second half was way different, as MSU was, again, 20 points better than Maryland. And one in a laugher. Although I will say, for a 43-point win, it was a really entertaining one. I mean, certainly helps be a Michigan State fan, but sometimes those games just get kind of just like, well, they're just boring. And this was not, because Michigan State was playing well both ends. They're running a lot, and just there was a lot to be entertained by as far as the plays, individual performances. And for a while there, it looked like Jeremy Fears would challenge the Big Ten single game assist record of 20 set by Matulis in that aforementioned game against Michigan, where he had 20. But it was not to be. He'd have to settle for second best MSU assist performance with a tie for 17 with like Gary Ganakis or something like that.
Yeah,
17 assists, 4 turnovers, and Michigan State now moves to 18-2 overall, 8-1 in the Big Ten, tied for second, and once again hold another Big Ten opponent to the lowest offensive output for the season.
Yeah, it was. Look, this is going to sound maybe trite, but it's true. I think this is what happens when you have a very, very good team playing very, very well and a bad team playing badly. And when you talk about how it was entertaining, well, that's why. Sometimes these games get ugly, and it's just the opponent is just really that awful. And you just kind of, especially in the second half, you're just kind of going through the motions, and guys are maybe getting outside of themselves, trying to do too much. But that didn't happen in this game. Michigan State played a very sharp game. I mean, there was one very brief, 2 or 3 minute segment in this game where Michigan State didn't play well. In the first half, I think they were up 24-4, and then the lead got taken down to 10. And then at that point, Fears and Carr and Cooper and Kohler, all the starters came back in.
Yep.
Pretty short order. It was back up over 20, and they never looked back. That's remarkable. And it's all the more remarkable, I think, when you've got such a huge lead. That's when you expect things to kind of go off the rails a little bit. It's understandable. But, Tom Izzo talked about it in his post game. He said he was obviously very, very happy with what the team did at halftime. You mentioned the 23-point lead at the half against San Jose State. He said, without even having to say a word, the team started talking about how this had happened before. They'd been here before and kind of just treaded water or let the lead slip a bit in the second half of these kind of games. And they didn't want to do that. They set some goals for themselves, and really remarkable. So, I mean, there's just so much that went well. You mentioned Jeremy Fears. I think given that Jeremy only played 25 minutes in this game,
that's what's amazing. I didn't mention that. It's amazing.
If he had played another 6-7 minutes, let's say, his normal minute total, might he have at least gotten to tie Mateen? Maybe. Remarkable. And it's just, we've been saying it for a long, long time, but he just continues to go out there and demonstrate the reality, which is he is an All-American at
Yeah.
this point. He's an All-American level player. He's a first team All Big Ten level player. He's been the key guy for Michigan State all year, but the importance is just growing, if that's possible, because he's scoring so much better now.
Yeah, if
I
only
mean,
he could
again,
shoot, Rod, he would be a heck of a player, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if he could just
Yeah, what was he, 6 for 8 today from the floor?
Yeah, 4 for 4
Yeah,
from the line,
6
1 for
for
1 from
8,
3.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 for 7 on twos. I mean, he's doing all the things that we've talked about as being necessary for him to take the next step. And it's just remarkable. So he's where the individual discussion starts, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt. It was his play because he was the dominant guy on the court. I would also add, defensively, they got a guy named David Diggy Coit, who we talked about and will talk about, who's their best player. This is a guy who's put up 40 plus a couple of times this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had 11 today. He was 4 for 12 from the floor, 1 for 7 on threes.
Yeah.
Jeremy Fears was guarding him a lot. Yeah. It's totality of the game. That's what Jeremy Fears is giving you. And it's just a great, great element for Michigan State to have in its corner, to have a guy like that leading your team and truly leading your team, not just your best player, but your leader. It's really something special. And I just think, I mentioned this on the Spartan Mag board today, something that I've been kind of noticing with this team, and today was another example of it. They have, Izzo talked at halftime about them setting goals for the second half. But I think that's something they've been doing all along. They've talked openly about certain things that they wanted to do as a team. And I'm not talking about the usuals, which is win the Big Ten, go to a Final Four, win a national championship. That's always.
Right.
But I know that some of those guys talked about them wanting to, I would almost describe it as correcting wrongs from last year. And there weren't many wrongs last year, but there were a few, and they've found them. And so far, they're hitting the mark. One was they really were intent on revenge tour stuff is stupid, but on playing better against USC and Indiana, two of the very few teams that beat them a year ago.
Yeah.
Well, check mark, 29-point win over USC, 21-point win over Indiana. Then they talked very recently about last year's West Coast trip going 0-2. Check mark. 17-point win and a 16-point win on their trip to the Pacific Northwest. Today, they talked about how they didn't want a repeat of last year's first game home after coming back from the West Coast trip, where, if you remember, very rough start against Oregon in that game. Now, there's a huge difference between that Oregon team and this Maryland team, but still,
for sure,
huge problems in that Oregon game until the second half, where Jason Richardson just sort of took over and willed them to victory by scoring 29 points. But that was a tough one, and they didn't feel they responded well to coming back off all that travel. Well, you couldn't. I mean, I know we talked about in the preview, and we'll come back to it, I guess, the value of getting off to a good start. There have been times this year, even recently, where the first half they haven't been able to create any separation. They haven't been able to carve out a nice working margin. And it puts pressure on them. It means you got to play guys maybe more minutes than you'd like to, ideally. Even in games like the Oregon game was a good example of it. Even in games where you are definitively the better team, they're outmanned, but MSU still had to play guys a lot closer to regular minutes than they probably would have liked. Well, that was not a problem today. And all of this stuff that I'm talking about is, I think, they are examples of the maturity and the focus that this team seems to be exhibiting, which is a great sign, because even with very, very good teams at Michigan State over the years, you don't always have this. That level of maturity is rare. And they really do. They seem to just be locked in. And we've kind of been talking about that one way or another all year, where we were marveling at how connected they were that early in November. That's another example of it. So really, really, really impressive. And obviously that's an understatement anytime you win by 43 in a conference.
Well, that goes without saying.
But even so, this was remarkable stuff. It wasn't just because Maryland's awful. Yes, they're awful, but Michigan State played extremely well. Tom Izzo said so.
He was happy, and I didn't expect him to be happy after this game.
Yeah, but truthfully, look at the game, look at the performance. What could he be unhappy about? They played well. They were sharp.
Yeah,
they were focused. The effort level was good. All of it.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Spisters, Go Green from Ottawa, and for Danya Cavani, 734, listening from Plymouth, Michigan. Love the podcast. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining in. One of the things I thought was real interesting about this too was the defense. We've been talking about how Michigan State, we talked about before the game, that the defense has been really good, not fouling and rebound. Of course, defensive rebounding. That's what makes them such an elite defense. And that the individual guarding is really good, but not the levels that we've seen in Spartan teams in the past.
Right.
This is not as good a team. I don't want people to get carried away with this Maryland game. However, from a defense standpoint, connectedness, they started looking a little bit more like they did, I feel like, the beginning of this year, where they were starting to lock team down. I mean, they had 2 5-second violations, for inbounding. They had 1 or 2 shot clock violations too, I think. I mean, they were making it really, really hard for Maryland. Now, again, there aren't as many scorers on Maryland. It's like, you kind of shut down Coit and you're probably okay. But anyway, I thought that was the other parts of the defense seemed to get a little bit better, and which is, I think, contributed a little bit to the result.
They've really been doing that since big time play kicked back in. I mean, even the loss,
like last two,
even the loss at Nebraska, they played a very good defensive game. That wasn't where they lost it. It was the 19 turnovers.
Yeah.
It was not the defense. They take a look at what Nebraska's been doing to everybody else they play. And they say, they scored 58 points against Michigan State, and they weren't efficient in doing that. Yeah. So you're right. I think there was that, and it wasn't just the defense. It was in a lot of things. There was that 5-game bit in December, really post-due, where everything just, Jeremy's play kind of regressed. The defense regressed. There were a lot of things that just weren't as sharp as they had been. Well, that's been over for a while now. I mean, it is remarkable how good this Michigan State team is defensively. And I just want to point out, so they're still, I took a look at the updated, one of the great things about KenPom is it updates almost instantly.
Is it? Okay. And then I'll let you, I know where you're going with this. It's kind of weird to me, I think, but go ahead.
They jumped today from 10 to 4. They're now number 4 in the country.
Just for beating the sound of a bad team.
KenPom because they feel like it doesn't give Michigan State its due for whatever reason. Well, you got a hard time selling that one today. Defensively, I mean, they remain number 1. They're just phenomenal. And decisively number 1 in conference play. I mean, it's not even close.
Oh yeah. What is it? What did their offense move up at all? Because I feel like
it did. They're up to number 50.
Okay, so not much, 50. A little bit.
Well, it was, I don't know, 3-4 spots. I think they were 54th.
Yeah.
Or 53rd coming in.
And where's the 2
the problem is you're playing Maryland. So you're only going to get so much credit for what you do offensively against a team like that, but they're definitely, you see these things. Oh, you got to be top 30 in both offense and defense to win a title, or, there's various permutations of this, but the reality is the offense is getting better. And I would submit the offense is getting better most of all in the one area where it absolutely needed to, which is 2-point shooting. We've harped on that a lot. Yet again, Michigan
Yeah.
State puts together, I mean, what were they today? They were
They were fantastic. They're up to
they
86, I think, in or Torvik, at least with 2-point scoring. They're like 80,
they
80
were
something now.
they were, what was it? 20, so that's
25 and
25, 25 for
47.
37.
30,
That's
there you go.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I mean, this has been a string of, I don't know how many games in a row where they've been 60% plus, I
Yeah.
think. And it just continues. And they did everything we've talked about. Transition. They were, that's a way you boost that 2-point production. 31 fast break points today. Second chance points. 17 second chance points on 9 offensive rebounds. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. And then guys finishing. Oh, Jeremy Fears, 5 for 7 from 2. Let's see. Cohen Carr, 5 for 6. Jackson Kohler, 4 for 5. This is all 2-point shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Ward, 3 for 3. On and on we go. Kurtang, 2 for 3. So you're seeing those guys that we've talked about that needed to become more efficient being more. I mean, Carson Cooper was a disappointing 3 for 7.
Right.
He was but you're seeing the guys that had to get better finishing plays doing exactly that. So really just a comprehensively great performance.
Yeah. Something you like to see for sure.
Also,
hi to Joe Hollis. We'll go through the pillars in a second. Just say hi to Joe Hollis from Isle of Palm, South Carolina. That sounds a lot warmer than where we are. I think it's -4 when I walked into the. I was almost going to wear my snow pants into the Breslin, but wasn't that long a walk. And I did not go cross country skiing. For those curious, I got out. I snowblowed yesterday, and I'm like, you know what? That's enough time outside. It was 20 below with wind chill. I thought, I'll just try next weekend.
and I was out in that myself. I was out at 5:30 this morning, and it was, I think it was about -20 here with the wind chill. It was unbelievably brutal. Just for the record, in Ken Palm, Michigan State's up to number 87 in 2-point percentage.
Okay, so
and they're up to 72 in 3-point percentage. They're back up almost. They're knocking at the door at 36%, 35.8% from 3. So it's all coming up roses right now for Michigan State. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
What was weird today is 8 players hit threes for Michigan State. That's very unusual. And why do we start with the guy who's maybe most surprising? So we have Carson Cooper, 14 points, 4 of 8 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, hit all 5 of his free throws, 8 rebounds, had 3 steals, no blocks this game, had an assist, no turnovers. It's funny because watching Moneyball, Moneyball is Moneyball. It doesn't really mean anything, but you can definitely see things that players have been working on and they've been doing. And one thing that we definitely saw plenty of in Moneyball was Carson Cooper's outside jumper and his 3-point jumper. He shot a lot of threes in Moneyball, hit a lot of them too. And we have not seen that. I think maybe he's taken a couple. This one was like maybe a hand grenade, shot clock sort of thing. And there've been many times where I thought he might pull up, but then the last 2 games out West, he started hitting those long 2s and you're like, boy, he's only about 4 feet away from, those being worth 3 points. And sure enough, he had the open one. It was a low pressure one. I mean, Michigan State's up like 22 points or whatever it is. And he drains it, it's pure.
Well,
and I anticipate we'll see more of this. This is the natural progression, right? We see this all the time. And I find it funny that people are always surprised by this happening.
Well, here's the big news, I think, from that. Because you got, and this isn't to disregard the Rutgers game coming up, but we all know what comes up next weekend, right? Next Friday.
Correct.
One of the main issues that Michigan has, in my view, is that, they, in some ways, in a lot of ways, actually, their best lineups include Mara at the 5 because he's such a huge rim protection presence for them. He's been markedly improved over where he was at UCLA offensively. He's been very good, but he isn't perfect. And one of the ways he's not perfect is he absolutely cannot extend out on the floor defensively. Can't do it. They don't even bother trying to have him hedge anything. It's all drop coverage. So when they do that, they've got a dilemma. If you have big men who could stretch the floor, you also need to have a guard handling the ball, an initiator who can take advantage of drop coverage in the pick and roll game too. Well, Jeremy Fears has been delivering in that respect lately, as we've talked about. So you feel good about that. But, you know, I was actually talked about this a little bit on the Spartan mag board today, but I didn't really think it through yet. And I'm thinking about it a little differently now. One thing I'd mentioned is, as I said, well, I don't think Michigan State will do this very often, but in theory, a big man combination of Jackson and Jesse McCulloch would be really tough for Michigan to deal with when both big guys can stretch the floor. That's what Wisconsin did to them. Right. You know, everybody on the floor for Wisconsin, Winter and the Lithuanian kid they're playing at the power forward, both those guys just killed them. And Michigan really didn't have an answer for it. Mara in particular, what it means is if a team can do that to them, they might have to sit Mara more than they want to. And that changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
Then they got to play more guards. And trust me, that isn't something Michigan wants to do because their guards, not that they're horrendous, but again, relatively speaking, that's the weak point. But here's the thing. Now, Carson Cooper, if old Dusty's smart, if he's as smart as he seems to think he is, Carson Cooper is now giving him something to think about. And he should think about it. So just food for thought. That you might be inclined to believe, well, it's just 1-3. And as you said, low pressure situation. What does it mean? Well, I don't know. If it is a sign of things to come and Carson is feeling comfortable with that, I suspect some of those opportunities might well present themselves this weekend. And he certainly should have given Michigan something that they've now got to think about, which is what you want to do. You want them thinking about all kinds of shit.
Absolutely.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, and looking, going down the line, we'll talk about Kohler in the keys of the game, but Cone Carr, 14 points, 6 for 8 from the field. So a lot of shots. We like that. I mean, it's not like a ton, but super efficient. Yeah. 1 for 2 from 3. Again, trouble the line. 1 for 3 from the line. That's if you had a knock, that's one of them. 3 rebounds, one of them offensive, had an assist, a couple turnovers. One of those was kind of not his fault. He was sort of like led too far on the fast break and sort of was trying to control a travel with a dribble and got stolen. But only played about 20 some minutes. And I guess that's the thing to point out too. Nobody played more than 25 minutes this game, which was really nice too. And to win by 43 without again, it's very impressive.
We've talked about this before. It matters in the sense that you're making sure that guys have every reason to have fuel left in the tank.
Right.
When the rubber really hits the road, those last 2-3 weeks of the conference season. And so anytime, and you don't count on getting these kind of opportunities very often in the league. So when you get them, it's a big deal. I thought Cohen was, it was kind of a quiet, it wasn't the obvious all-around dominance of the Oregon game from him, but quietly, I thought played really well. I mean, 14 points and ultra efficient, 5 for 7 on twos, hits another 3. So again, he's all of a sudden, I think he's up around 25% from 3
he's
now.
He's exactly 25% now.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's not great. Who's kidding who? But of late, he's shooting a lot better. Again, giving people something to think about. He also hit another, he hit another 2-point jumper, giving people something to think about.
Yeah. And defensively, he is
Yeah.
playing really well. I mean, it's amazing how much better he is at switching and recovering and maintaining his balance and not relying 100% on his athleticism, which,
He's
is out of this world.
he's
He's just staying solid more.
he's taken, I mean, maybe if you say taken the leap is maybe slightly hyper. Well, no pun intended, honestly.
Oh,
You're right. But all I was meaning is when you say that, it's like, oh my God, this guy has gone from,
yeah, no, right, yeah.
nowhere to ultra somewhere. I don't mean that, but he has taken, here's another one for you. He's taken a significant jump, but for real, the
You're
improvement
elevating
is
your
real.
game today. I don't know.
The steadiness, the consistency defensively is starting to show game in, game out. And, look, there are going to be games coming up. I mean, again, when I look forward to, I'm getting ahead of myself. When I look forward to next weekend, Cohen's probably going to see a lot of yaks, and yaks might have some trouble. I just have a feeling that he probably hasn't. Well, I know that team hadn't dealt with what they're going to deal with at Breslin. I know that. I heard yaks talking about how live the crowd was last night for their huge rivalry game against Ohio State that nobody gives a shit about. I just thought
both teams.
I just thought he's talking about how live it was. Oh, you poor guy. You have no idea what's coming your way. But anyway, it's great to see Cohen maybe turning that corner and consistently. He clearly is taking pride in it. It's something that matters to him.
Right.
To do this. And they really can use it, because having a guy is something Jim Comparotti, Paul Conadike at Spartan Mag have talked about a lot. And I think they're right. You have a guy with Cohen's particular set of tools at the position that he plays. And if that guy can be an eraser for you defensively, just take people away, that's a big deal.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a big
for sure.
deal.
Yeah. What was the deal? I'm not quite sure. Did they pick up on the Izzo having fun with that Guillermo Del Pinto, who is clearly not, and he was not in our prep. Whenever he got the ball, I don't know what that guy, how he feels about that whole thing happening. I mean, you're on the road, whatever, things happen, but it kept the game entertaining, at least for me, where they're just cheering when he got it and booing every other player who had the ball. Moving on to Divine Ugochukwu, 7 points, 2 for 2 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, hit 2 out of 3 from the line. I feel like one of those was a 1-and-1. He missed the front end, but maybe I'm wrong.
It was
3 rebounds, 2 assists, 21 minutes. And the only knock I'd say against him is that's portion where he's playing the point in the first half. It was a weird lineup. I mean, it was him. It was McCullough, Fort. I think Carr was out there, and maybe Ward. I don't know, but they were atrocious. I mean, it was like a really, really bad, a bad one.
And those are
that was a bad stretch, right?
Yeah, and I did think Divine had displayed some good playmaking instincts later in the game. In the second half, there were a couple of times he ended up with 2 assists, no turnovers. But you're right, you can't, and that's the thing where we are now. In the way fan minds work, and I'm not accepting myself from this. Every one of these circumstances is a referendum on where you are and what you're doing. And the fact is, I'll take the mea culpa. The fact is, the Denim Wojcik stints have been just fine for a while now. Now that doesn't mean that they're not going to get bit at some point with it. But as you say, they went with that lineup without Denim out there. It was Divine running it, and it didn't go well, right? So you can't say definitively, well, that's clearly your best option. Not at this stage. I'm not saying they should go away from it entirely either. I still think it's important to work that group, work him in that role, because there are going to be circumstances where I think you're definitely going to want to go to that as opposed to just inserting Denim. But, as I say, every game is a referendum on this stuff. That's just the way, not for Izzo, but thank God, but for the rest of us. And so that's where we are. And honestly, of late, I don't think you can complain. I really don't.
So it makes me, you say mea culpa. I guess, it does look like a smart move by Izzo to kind of force Wojcik in there when it looked like it'd be kind of rough. I would say that there was a defensive possession where he just, looked like I think Coit sort of started salivating when he saw him on him, but, they
Yeah,
managed to get by just fine with him. So,
here's the thing, though. There's a difference between, and this is how it's been really the last, 5 games, 6 games.
yeah.
We all understand, and Izzo does talk about him as if he's an all defense team guy. And I that's hyperbolic. I mean, there's just, to say the least. I mean, it's not true, but mostly because just his physical attributes make that impossible, because there are going to be matchups where it's just so overwhelmingly in the favor of the guy he's guarding that even when he guards well, it's not going to matter. We think about how good a defender Jeremy is, and we talk about that sometimes with Jeremy. If he's guarding a guy who's 6'4", 6'5", Jeremy can play it just about perfectly in terms of what he can do, and it's still not enough, But I'll say this. The big fear that I had was that it was going to be what you just described, but 3 possessions, 4 possessions in a row until they can get the clock stopped. And we are not seeing that. We are seeing Denham hang in there. We're seeing him as part of units that are getting stops. As I say, the last 5 or 6 games, I don't think there's a lot to complain about. Offensively, it's never been an issue. For as much as people think, oh, you're playing 4-on-5, which granted, he's not a shooting threat, but the offense still, for the most part, is humming when he's out there.
I think, the break's not the same, but it's not the same with Divine either, right? It's just like
right. And one thing Denham does pretty well, you could say, well, he's not a shooting threat, and that's true, but what he is, he's proven to be able to get into the teeth of a defense and force them to contract. Mm-hmm. You see that often when he's on the floor. He's able to get into the lane. That's what you want your point guard to do. So I don't have any complaints about that anymore. Overall, getting back to Divine, defensively, he wasn't perfect. None of the guys maybe other than Jordan Scott, none of the guys who played the 2 were, but it was okay. It was okay. And Divine, that's kind of the story with Divine defensively. He's clearly got the most upside of the 3 guys. I'm not counting Jordan Scott in that group, but of Kurtang, Trey Fort, he's clearly got the most defensive upside, and he is the steadiest of those 3 guys. Doesn't mean he's steady by Izzo standards, but he's the steadiest of those 3.
Well, let's come to the guy who can't guard Izzo's mother. That's Kurtang. 7 points, 3 for 7 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. Had a rebound, had just a turnover. Played fine. I think he got a little hug from Izzo coming out the first time coming out of that stint. And so I think that was sort of a recognition that he responded well to his "can't guard my mother" comment that sort of went viral.
It was exactly what we talked about, right? It's like, if anybody was worried, oh, Kerr's confidence is shattered, didn't look like it. I mean, he's still pulling when he's got open looks or semi-open looks. He was solid. He was solid. It was good.
Cam Ward starting to look exactly like we want him to be. 8 points, 3 for 3 from the field, 2 for 4 from the line. So missed his first 2 he doesn't hit 2 in a row after that. So he's on a free throw streak right now. Yeah. The amazing thing is he missed 2 free throws, and one of those was even a lane violation. So he actually missed 3 and was able to convert them. Finished with 3 boards and had a couple blocks, 2 blocks in 20 minutes. We can't say anything but nice things about everybody this game, I think.
He was very good again. He and Jordan both, by their standards of late, where both those guys have just been making really, really nice contributions. The Oregon game was not one where we saw that from either of them, really. It was nice to see both of them get back on the beam in that way. I thought Cam was really good. And he also got Michigan State back in the lane violation game.
Yes, they had. And they had a couple, I think, that didn't get called because Jeremy made them. So it's
That's
pretty
right.
remarkable.
That's right.
Yeah, Lundqvist DDM.
Cam is one of the guys. So Jeremy's obviously the guy who seems to draw the most of them by far. But and I'm pulling this totally anecdotally out of my hat. It seems to me Cam maybe is second. Who else is in that group?
Well, Coops had a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say even Kohler's had some, but he doesn't shoot a whole lot of free throws.
Yeah. So those are the guys. Yeah. It's those three guys behind Fears. But there's obviously something about Cam's. I mean, as we've said, I don't think they certainly are not coached to do it. I know that.
No.
But there's something about Cam's release, like a hitch, that I think does that. Plus, as we've discussed, teams being completely paranoid about rebounding.
Yeah, I think that's more what it is than anything.
I do too. I think that's the biggest
because we were just talking, I think, before, saying, I don't think they really get a lot of cutout, but I think they had 2 this game. And when I think back, they've actually had from time to time, and especially when a team's just punishing you all the time, all over the boards. The last thing you want to do is give up that. You're probably paranoid about every aspect of rebounding, and so just nothing feels comfortable. And I think I was listening to an interview with Jeff Kohler, who's Jackson Kohler's dad, obviously.
Right.
And someone was asking, like, I guess the guy next to him on the free throw line, like something like, Jack's like, you going after this ball? And Jack's like, hell yeah. So, so I'm sure that it's always a present for these guys in their mind.
I agree. I think that's the biggest thing, but you can't, I mean, at this stage, it's not just, this weird thing that keeps happening for no reason. There's clearly something.
Oh yeah.
That's driving it. Because it just happens too often.
Chuck Fish 8055 mentioned, I'd forgotten that Maryland had a lane violation on their own free throw.
That's right. That's right. They did.
So
that's
moving
how
on,
it's gotten.
Jordan Scott, he also had 8 points, 3 for 5 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. He had also 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and played 16 minutes, or 17 minutes. So anyway, he also had a steal. So another great back to his performance. And in some ways, I do expect a little bit more this sort of performance from a freshman. A little bit, they play a little bit better usually at home, sort of just because they're more comfortable with where things are.
Nice to see Jordan. To me, I wasn't worried about, is he gonna, after the Oregon game, I figured he would make the kind of Jordan Scott contributions, right?
Right.
Like getting his hand on loose balls, diving on the floor, either grabbing boards himself or deflecting them to somebody else with his work rate. All those things happened, and they were no surprise. What I was glad to see is that he hit a couple of threes, because he'd had that, Kohler obviously got the most attention for the 3-point shooting vacation in the Pacific Northwest, but Jordan, I believe, was also 0 for the trip, and he'd been really hot. He had been at 50% in league play before that trip. Well, to see him hit a couple today, really good. One in the first half, which was fantastic, on a play from Jeremy where I don't know how Jeremy saw him. Jeremy was driving to the rim, had like 3 guys seemingly surrounding him, and somehow Jeremy saw Jordan, kicked it out, and boy, it would have been a shame if he missed it, because it was such a great shot.
That's why he had 17 assists. People were making shots today.
Yeah,
a lot easier.
That's how it happens, man. I mean, people may remember Mateen had that game with 20 assists in large part. I mean, everybody was hitting, but Charlie Bell went insane from 3.
He went nuclear. That's right. Yeah.
I forget what his final numbers were, but it was crazy. And then he had, if I remember right, I think he got an assist to Steve Cherry on a 3 at the end of that game. Mateen did. So for those who don't remember, Steve Cherry was he was kind of the, Nick Sanders, Walton twins of that team, along with Matt Ishbia. But yeah, just, if you're going to have an assist game like that, yes, you got to be doing a great job making plays for others, but you've also got to get helped out by guys just hitting shots. No question.
So 2 more players to talk about. So Trey Fort, 9 minutes, 0 for 2 from field, misses 1 3-point attempt, had a rebound, had an assist. I thought he looked okay, but again, they were not as good that stretch, that first half stretch, the one bad stretch.
And that's just where we are right now with Trey. You know, I mentioned it after the last game where he did make a serious contribution. He's going to keep getting opportunities, but they're going to be fairly short in duration unless he proves that he deserves to stay on the floor.
Yep.
That's just how it is.
And then finally, we have Jesse McCullough finished with 3 points. He's 1 for 3 from 3, had a rebound and a block, and played just 9 minutes as well. So,
yeah,
he's, you know, whatever.
Nice block on the defensive play, came from the weak side, made a nice play. It was on the baseline, I think, if I remember correctly. At least one of the misses was a hand grenade 3, so I don't worry about that.
Right.
Exactly. The one he hit was just great, where I think it was Rafferty on the call. You know, it was like, oh, you got, when the ball was coming to him, something like, you know, you can't leave him alone like that, and then bang, just drained it. He's, like I said, though, and I alluded to this, we'll spend more time talking about it next week. I do think there is a role for him in that Michigan game. Not that I expect him to play like 25 minutes, but his skill set is such that I can see an opportunity for him to really do some damage in that game, relatively speaking. And it's exactly what we saw today. Just he sticks shots.
Well, some of the guys who stick shots are the Brothers Just Your Gutters. If you need to make sure your gutters are functioning properly, whether it's your home or business, head on over to our support page at thefinalfoursnottheschedule.com/support. There you get a hold of either Kurt or Greg, whether you're on the east or the west side of the state. They will take care of your gutters. They'll take care of your downspouts. They'll clean things out. Even in this kind of weather, they'll be out there. Well, maybe not with minus 20 wind chill. Maybe they may have some sort of restrictions for their employees, but they will come out even in the winter and take care of things. So check them out today. You get 10% off as a listener to the show just by mentioning the Final Four. And so they had the player Michigan State need to keep in the gutter, who was David Coit. And let's see, he had 11 points. He's 4 for 12 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. Split his free throws, hit his first 2 and then missed his second 2. Got some free chicken nuggets. 3 rebounds, 1 of them offensive, 3 assists to 2 turnovers, which is I think kind of like where he sits most of the time, right? About like 1.5. Had a steal, no blocks. You could definitely see the talent when the few times he got loose, it was pretty much just in that few minute stretch with Divine was out there that 3 minutes. And then I don't think he even scored the second half. So they really did a nice job on him and pretty much kept the gutter. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. No, Jeremy Fear's defensive masterclass. I mean, and you're right. If you took away that one burst when they took it from 20 to 10 and he was a big part of that, hit a couple shots, it was even worse. So and look, and I don't think, Coit's not an all conference guy. There are better players in this league than he is, but the fact remains, you're talking about a guy who has broken 40 twice.
Yeah.
Once in a Big Ten game. Yeah, it was Penn State, but still, that's a player that can score. He can definitely do that. And Michigan State did not let him do that in this game.
You could definitely see he was the real only scoring option for this team. I mean, I guess they had some other guys who contributed a little bit, but he was the one who's really the threat out there.
It's really tough. I mean, I think we talked about this in the preview, but you saw it. A lot of guys that I think he expected more of, he being Buzz Williams, just, somebody like Miles Rice. Miles Rice this guy was a hyped transfer to Indiana last year and he disappointed, but, people still thought, well, that's a good player and a guy who'll help him. You know how many points Miles Rice scored today? 0. Zip in 16 minutes. Obviously they're without Pharrell Payne. That's a loss. But, Elijah Sanders played pretty well for them. Coit was who he was. Isaiah Watts didn't give him much. The bunch of guys that came over with him from Texas A&M, of which there are several, didn't give him much. It's just, there's just not enough. There's not enough firepower on that team. And It's why I think personally, even though the standings do not say Maryland is the worst team in the league, they say that Penn State
Penn
is.
State. Yeah.
I would absolutely take Penn State's team over Maryland, no question. And that's easy to say because we know Penn State really pushed MSU, but they also
Yeah.
pushed Michigan. They were also
Mhm.
competitive at Mackey with Purdue. They've had moments where the game against Maryland was just weird that they lost it. I mean, I absolutely hands down think they're a better team. Maryland is the worst team in the Big Ten this year. I don't even think it's particularly close because I look at the other teams that are kind of mired down there with them, the Northwestern and Oregon and Penn State, and I'd take any of them over this Maryland team. They just don't have the horses.
Well, we'll have to settle it on the floor at the United Center after the season, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. So make sure your windows are clean. Head over to the Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids. Those guys do a fantastic job, whether it is the summer or the winter. They'll be out there cleaning the inside, the outside, your windows, screens, blinds, whatever you need done, whether it's your home or your business. They'll make sure things are nice and clear for your customers or your family to check out the outside and watch the beautiful snowfall that you're going to have to shovel in a few hours. Head on over to our support page at tffinots.com/support. There you can find a way to get a hold of Troy and his team if you're within a long, 100 miles of Grand Rapids. So really, it's a big, big area. Check them out first. You get 15% off as a listener to the show simply by mentioning Final Four when you're getting your estimate. And of course, they sponsor Who Cleans the Glass Best, where if I win, Rod does part of the show with helium. If I lose, I put in a basketball in my head. And so it was 10-8 coming into this game. Let's see. I had Kohler. Or you had Kohler and Ward who had 8 and 3. I had Cooper and Carr who had 8 and 3. That sounds like a tie. So I keep my 2-point lead with 12 to go now.
Yeah, I didn't like that. We'll leave it at that. That's the one thing I didn't like about this game.
I was so worried because the last 2 or 3 minutes, it was McCullough and Ward out there.
Me
and
too.
It was tied up. I'm like,
I was just, come on,
Jesse.
And it just never came his way.
So I steal one. It is not a complete victory, but it is definitely a steal without Jackson. Although now, boy, I tell you what, we're starting to get a little bit more parity in the rebounding. And we had that inversion last year too, where we had, it was all Jackson. We kind of said, we got to do some sort of different method with a snake draft or whatever. And so you have 2 players. And then I think Sapala had a couple big games. You're like, maybe he's like the rebound. And then it sort of switched back to the way it was. But for a while, it kind of had us sort of fooled. But we'll see how it goes. I've got getting closer to the end. I'm not ready to declare victory, but I'm one away from making this really going to be really tough for you. So I'm hoping for it.
We'll see.
All right. And so make sure if you need Spartan apparel, you head on over to Nudge Printing. Nudge Printing does, of course, the best stuff, whether it's Duncan Gruff Sparty, which is on sale, or other kind of Spartan apparel. You can certainly pick up one of our stuff. This is like the Tiff Knots hoodie that I'm wearing right now, Word of the Game. You can actually go there at nudgeprinting.com/win. And there you can enter for a free drawing to maybe win the sweatshirt at the end of this month, which is coming up fast. Actually, probably the last day will be the Michigan game. So on I guess it'll be Saturday, but probably Friday we'll get the drawing and then we'll announce the next the winner for the next game. So head on over to nudgeprinting.com. Again, any sort of Spartan apparel you need, it's all there. 20% off if you type in TIFFNOTS, that's TFFINOTS at checkout. All right. So the 5 keys to the game. The first one is play the game, not the opponent. Well, I think this one is a resounding yes. They played the game, not the opponent. They took care of business and they throttled Maryland in every sort of aspect of the game.
100%. Wonderful job. We talked about this earlier of focus, finding ways, that's the thing I like. And it's something that you find good teams do is they're finding motivation in things beyond just, we got to win this game against an outmanned opponent.
Yeah.
Like they're not accepting that that's enough, that just winning a game like this meets the standard. It goes beyond that. And that's a sign, as I said, of a very mature team and a very focused team.
And the second key to the game was Jax. He had obviously had a rough time. He finished with 11 points. He's 5 for 7 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. The first one looked kind of just like funky. And the second one, he was definitely calling for that and was searching out that shot. He also finished with 8 rebounds, 4 of them offensive, just 1 turnover, played only 23 minutes. So very efficient scoring out there. And someone mentioned, I think it was JJ McKay, said that after the game, he still was doing an interview and he had a cough. So I wonder if he hasn't been sick for a little while.
Well, they did say that
affecting things for a while.
Yeah, I think his health has been a factor, but still, this was a bounce back game. It was exactly. I mean, could you have seen an 18-point game, a double? Yeah, but all things considered, it was exactly the kind of bounce back you wanted to see, including hitting a 3. Which again, I don't worry about him as a shooter, but you don't want narratives talk.
Yes. You don't want it festering, right?
Place. Yep. And for him to hit 1, good deal.
Yeah. Well, the only person who probably wanted Kohler to get a couple more rebounds more than you was the guy sitting next to us. Apparently had a $20 bet that Kohler would have 12 rebounds. He was, I don't know where he made the bet or if it was just those buddies or something like that, but my daughter was like laughing. I thought it was pretty funny that he was so frustrated that he wasn't going to get it. All right, the third key to the game is the transition. And let's see, how did Michigan State do here? Let's say they had a 31-0 edge in fast break points. I know 31 points is pretty good, right?
Both, 31-0. I look, I know they. I don't think I've ever seen it before, but and here's the thing: here's the difference, even among 2 bad teams. Oregon right now has a bad roster with their 2 leading lights gone, right? And I don't think there's a big difference between Dana Altman and Buzz Williams as coaches. But Dana Altman clearly had designs on finding ways to slow that game down, and he did. And for a while, it allowed Oregon to hang in there. Maryland, I do think something we talked about, which is the only strength, and it's not even a super strength, but the only semi-strength Maryland had coming in was its offensive rebounding. So we had talked about, if I recall correctly, what were they going to get? Were they going to be in a position where they felt like, we really do want to balance the floor, but we can't afford to. We got to do the one thing we think we can actually get done, and that's go to the boards. And I think they made that choice, and boy, did they pay for it. And I think then on top of that, the inexperience of dealing with Michigan State's break. I mean, how many times, even off rare made baskets for Maryland, was Michigan State just punishing them?
Yeah.
Off makes. I mean, it was just relentless.
Yeah, they were certainly trying, like they were trying to slow Michigan State down by just going to full court press after made baskets. But the problem for that is that they didn't make many baskets. And so they weren't able to really do much there.
Not that it fits in neatly to any of our keys, but it's worth mentioning, I think, that, Maryland, again, in an effort to, I think, slow the game down, played a lot of zone.
I was going to mention that next. Yeah, right.
Michigan State had no problems. Again, it was a terrible zone.
Yeah.
But still, we've seen bad zones have an effect. I mean, I'm not saying Duke's zone was bad, but it's something they don't do. And they sprung it on Michigan State for a stretch at winning time, and Michigan State really struggled with it. It was part of the difference in that game. This zone did not cause any problems.
Well, and I was listening to the pregame, and Izzo was talking about that Wojcik had told him that they were going to be playing zone, and so he was anticipating that there'd be a lot of zone play by Maryland, and they did play a lot. And there are a couple other teams that play a lot of zone in this league. Ohio State plays them zone, Minnesota does, and so we'll see some more of it. I think even Indiana does occasionally as well, but definitely the zone really. I mean, they were playing a lot of zone early in the game in the first half during that 20-0 stretch. And they were just getting obliterated on the boards. I mean, I think that's kind of where they switched out of it, but they weren't a whole lot better. Man, I mean, they just had trouble everywhere. So speaking of the boards, the fourth key to the game was the boards. Michigan State had a 35-26 edge overall. Both teams had 9 offensive rebounds, but unfortunately for Maryland, that's only a 25% offensive rebounding rate. And I think there were probably 2 possessions where they had probably 5 of those with some air balls and stuff.
Right.
Michigan State's 9 offensive rebounds still translate to 41% offensive rebounding rate, which is pretty good and really good. But
good.
The second chance points, as you mentioned before, huge disparity. I mean, a 17-6 edge for Michigan State. So 9 offensive rebounds, 17 points. Maryland, 9 offensive rebounds, 6 points. And
what we're talking about here is the clearest illustration I can think of how just counting raw offensive rebound numbers as if they're meaningful in and of themselves
leads
you to incorrect assumptions, because they were even, right? But there was a massive gap in terms of what it all meant.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State was dominant on its offensive glass. 40% plus is a dominant performance. And that's exactly what we hoped they would do and should do against a team like this. Maryland's not a good defensive rebounding team. As a response to an Oregon game where, frankly, by MSU standards, they were a little mediocre.
Yeah.
And then at the other end, against a good offensive rebounding group, I mean, Maryland, I'll look it up, including today's game, so it'll be a little less, but Maryland averages 32.9, so 33% offensive rebounding rate.
So 8 points under, yeah.
Yeah, that's significant. So this is a team that's been pretty good on the offensive boards, getting Jack, you know what.
Yeah, right.
And
Appreciate that.
Not turning it into points at the same time. You mentioned the second chance point difference, which I said this earlier. When you talk about MSU's 2-point improvement, man, transition baskets and they're not all 2s. They do get some transition 3s. They did today, but most of it is 2-point action. That's a big deal. And then converting more of those offensive rebounds into second chance points, it's huge, because a lot of those are going to be putbacks at the rim.
Right.
You want
exactly.
That, you need that. You need that kind of production.
And the fifth and final key to the game was the first half. Michigan State sort of had some, not clunkers, but not great first halves. Well, they had a 46-23 lead at halftime, so a 23-point lead. So I guess you can say that's a check.
Yeah, really, really good. Did exactly what we talked about, which was get a great working margin established. And then that gives you opportunities. That gives you opportunities to mostly to rest certain guys and get other guys more extended minutes. And that's exactly what they did. Like, as you said, among the starters, nobody exceeded 25 minutes. That is a godsend when you get an opportunity to do that in a Big Ten game, any Big Ten game.
Yeah. Right.
They've had a few of these lately where they've been able to reduce, particularly with Jeremy, because so much is on his shoulders, to lighten the load on him in multiple games the way they have. It does set them up. Honestly, it's, when you're in late February and you're playing a big game against whoever, and you feel like we need to lean on them a little bit more today. We maybe need to play them 33, 34. You're not worried about it as much because you haven't emptied the tank in January and in December. So, and that applies to everybody, but most importantly him, because of the nature of his position, his role. But it just checked every box in that respect today. Great work.
All right, so that brings us to our FanDuel interesting wager and player of the game. And I have not looked, so I'll have to check real quick. But
it's not close.
I'm guessing obviously our choice would be Jeremy Fears. We'll see what the fans say. But so I will say this, and we were listening to, like I said, we were listening in the car ride down to the Breslin Center. We're listening to a couple of our shows. My wife's like, Rod, I think since we've been picking games, I think you've gotten every single right with the spread except the Illinois-Iowa game. I think that's the only one you got wrong. Yep. So you even said with this one, because we initially said it was, I think, 20 points. It ended up opening at 17. and you thought that you'd even go with that. You said take Ohio State if the line's 14.5, and I think they lost by 12.
12.
So that definitely was a win as well. So I don't
And
know if
Indiana and Rutgers. Didn't we
and
talk
Indiana
about
Rutgers.
that
Yep.
one? And
Yep.
I
You
got
did.
that
You got that one as
too.
well. Yeah.
I've been on a roll. Too bad it's
Yeah.
not rebounding totals where it actually means something.
Well, you can't win them all. So yeah, we'll see. We'll be back, of course. And now I was looking at the odds for Michigan State winning the Big Ten, and I think I get, like I was telling you, I think I got 18-1 odds. It's now down to 11 to 1 odds
That's
now.
dramatic. And
it's like been a
finally
week.
get close to reflecting the reality. Because
Right.
look, we haven't touched on it yet. I don't know if we've even talked about Keaton Wagler much, if at all,
Is
on
he
this
good?
podcast, because we haven't played Illinois yet, right? But
Right.
Keaton Wagler today in West Lafayette, when you add up the performance and the context of the game, so the meaning in the standings and also where you're playing, one of the toughest buildings in America to try to win a game, and he's a freshman. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. And maybe there's a game out there I'm not thinking of at the moment. But I don't know that I've ever seen a freshman in this league play a better game. 46 points.
That's the most ever
13 for
scored, right, by an opponent?
4. Blew away the Illinois freshman scoring record. I think he beat it by 11.
Yeah.
That kid, Georgie,
Bishop
whatever,
Billy or
Veely.
something like.
Yeah.
Billy, yeah, really nice guy, but
yeah, and a good player. But he had 35 in a game. But keep in mind, before today, Wagler had been incredible.
Yeah,
he's the single biggest reason Illinois is better than they were a year ago. Because for all the hype the Lithuanian kid had last year that played point guard for them, Wagler is so much more consistent. And his high end is better, as he showed today. That was a phenomenal game. The other thing that's really important about that, to bring it back around to Michigan State, is, in my mind, that result completely eliminates the advantage in scheduling that Purdue had, because it was at home and they lost. To me, they're on equal. I picked them and felt good about the pick, even though I was seeing some holes in their non-conference play, because they had a scheduling advantage on paper. They don't go to Ann Arbor. They don't go to East Lansing. They not going to Champaign-Urbana. So that was a big deal, right?
Yep.
Doesn't matter now because they took a loss at home. Following, they're on a 2-game losing streak. Following a loss at UCLA that, although it's not a total shocker, is still one that, man, if you're a Big Ten champion, you don't want to take that loss.
Right.
So
especially this kind of year with so many teams at the top who are challenging you. Yeah.
So to me, 11-1 odds is still good. I don't know what everybody else is, but you got a legit 4-team or 5-team race. And honestly, I mean, Purdue's got 2 losses, so they're back of the pack. I think you got to put Purdue 5th now of that group at the moment. I mean,
just by you have to buy losses.
It could change, right? That's what the standings tell us. But I mean, even the dreaded eye test tells you that. Like, they had been struggling before they started losing games.
Yeah, right.
I mentioned Penn State. They only beat by 8 at home. They had who was it the other night that they had to rally to beat? I'm struggling to remember. Oh, USC. USC, yeah, at USC. They didn't deserve to win that game, and they did. So karma's catching. I just mean the level of play. The results were not really matching the level of play. They had deserved to take some losses that they had managed to sidestep. Well, now it's catching up with them. And they're finally taking the L's. But yeah, that was a remarkable performance by Keaton Wagler. I mean, that's as good as it gets. And 2 bits of good news for Michigan State fans. 1, they get them in East Lansing. They don't go to Champaign. Right. And 2, they're never going to play him in Champaign because he's going to be gone coming.
Yeah, no question.
That's a lock. He has been that good.
Yeah. And he's really emerged later too. So
Well, he was well outside the top 100. He is when I think about recruits that have blown up seemingly out of nowhere, I'd be hard pressed in recent vintage at least to come up with a better example of it than him. Because as I said, even before today, he had been fantastic. He had been first team all Big Ten level. And now after this, I mean, I guess I got to think about it in the Big Ten, but you have to put him now in the most valuable player conversation. You have to. They did this without Boswell today too. Now that's going to be
where Illinois ends up, right? That's going to be the key if they end up winning the Big Ten.
That's going to be the trick.
Yep.
Can they survive it? They survived it today. They're 2-0 without him because they beat Maryland pretty easily at home the other day. And then to pull this one off, they're going to have more, as I said, they got to come to East Lansing. I think they go to Ann Arbor.
I think so. Nebraska's they're going to Nebraska too.
They're going to Nebraska, but so there are challenges, and I don't know that I believe that Illinois can navigate all of them during this what's supposed to be like another 3 weeks at least without Boswell.
Yeah, right.
But man, having Wagler out there is something else because he is the real thing. And nobody saw this coming.
Yeah. So Chuck Fish, 8055 asks a big question. Do we root for Michigan to beat Nebraska?
I had that same thought. I'm glad you brought that up from our listener. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because Nebraska is right now starting this week with Michigan. They are in like a 2.5 week stretch where they get Michigan, they get Illinois, and they get Purdue. I believe are the three challenging games. And they gotta take a loss somewhere, at least one, right? More than one, realistically.
We got to take 2 losses if Michigan State wants to actually win the Big Ten. I mean, get a number 1 seed.
Yeah,
at least. At a minimum.
Well, I don't.
There's no tiebreaker for Michigan State. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. But
someone might have bet on them.
MSU would claim a Big Ten title if they shared it.
Yeah.
And rightly so. But it's a tough one. I mean, you can't root for Michigan. You just can't. But it's in a way, it's kind of a no lose scenario. I mean, if you want to take the glass half full view, right? You say, well, if Nebraska gets to Michigan, that's great. Michigan takes a loss and they're reeling coming into East Lansing. If Michigan wins, maybe they already started. I watched some of the stuff they said last night after the Ohio State win, and oh boy, they never. I am reminded of the Mark D'Antonio line, which summed it up and captured the reality perfectly. It's not about the coach; it comes from the program, and he said it during the Brady Hoke era, one of my favorite eras. Meaning he thinks Brady. I was under the impression he thought Brady Hoke was a pretty decent guy.
Sure,
but that this is when they put the stake in Spartan Stadium's turf, and then they got it, as D'Antonio put it, shoved. Fill in the gaps as you will, but it's true. And his point was there is this thing, this weird arrogance that's largely unearned that just permeates that program no matter who the people are that are in it. So for right now, Dusty May has got no connection to the University of Michigan prior to last year. Zero, right? He didn't grow up, being fed maize and blue propaganda. I mean, you heard him, right? He doesn't pay attention to anything outside of his own program. He doesn't know anything about senior day traditions, right? So there's that. And his players, I mean, last year he had one guy barely in the playing group who was from the state of Michigan. This year he's got one, Trey McKinney. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he doesn't have guys that grew up and nobody. And yet I hear this nonsense about they got Yaks in particular is just all of a sudden running his mouth. All I can say, Mr. Lendenborg, strap it on. Pack a lunch come Friday, because you're about to experience something you've never experienced in your basketball life. That's a fact.
I can't wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be super anxiety causing for me, but that's
these are the fun ones, man. These are the fun ones.
They are. It's like the Duke game, right? Like
it's all set up. It's the hype machine has been rolling all year long. And as I say, judging by some of the things I'm hearing them talk about, I don't feel like they're in the right frame of mind for the challenge. What you want ideally, and this was something that John Beilein didn't always manage to keep a lid on, but he did it more than any other coach I can think of there, where his teams were at least not consistently doing this stupid shit, where they get an inflated sense of what they are and they run their mouths and they come in and they get their asses handed to them. But this team's starting to do that. And you haven't heard Michigan State, not to my knowledge at least.
No, I haven't heard anything.
Word one. But
they didn't even talked about him at all. That I saw,
right? Not word one. But I saw Yaks the other day get suckered by a Brody Sheets post. Those who are on Twitter may know what I'm talking about. That claimed that Danny Sprinkle said at his press conference that Michigan State was just the more physical team and the harder team to play against. Total fiction, which anybody with half a brain would know. This guy is talking about it in a press conference. Say, yeah, that pissed us off, and they asked the media member, what are you talking about? And he said, some people saying that Michigan State's more physical than us. Okay. And it comes from the program. Like, that guy's been in Ann Arbor 15 seconds and he's saying this stuff and then running his mouth about Ohio. Ohio State apparently had a couple of players that made some comments in the press, and they're responding to it after the fact. Like, yeah, that one's for Mr. Colin White, who doesn't start for Ohio State, but they're concerned about what he's talking about. To me, it betrays what's always gone on there. Even when they're good, they can't help themselves. They just can't. September Heisman's, November, December basketball hype machines. It's what they are. It's the essence of the Michigan athletic department right there. And I'm looking forward to Friday night. Really looking forward to it.
Well, we get to look forward to Rutgers first, obviously, on Tuesday.
That's right. First things first.
First things first. And hopefully Michigan State has the same. I'm guessing one of these keys will be identical to.
You got that right.
We may see it one more time.
The guy wants telegraphed. Yeah.
I think so. I guess the one other thing is, so I was watching that Purdue game. I missed part of it because, we're driving back or whatever. Uh-huh. I was very surprised. So TKR, so Trey Kaufman-Renn, not playing much. I understood he's under foul trouble, but he's not been playing well. My son said he's not been looking very good. Fletcher Lawyer, not out there at all for the last, when Purdue's down, I don't know, 4 or 5 points. They need, they need shooters. He's not there. So what's going on? But because he was like I guess the triumvirate, right? You've got Smith, Lawyer, and TKR were sort of your core. And you only have one of those guys really do anything, it seems like, right now. Is that, that's going to be the biggest problem with Purdue, I would imagine.
Here's the thing. So Fletcher Lawyer today, 1 for 5 overall, 1 for 3 from 3. On the season, though, this is what really matters. Now, his 3-point shooting number looks decent on the year, 37.5%. I will say that'll be the lowest since his freshman season.
I was going to say that's low for him. Yeah.
He was a 44% shooter each of the 2 previous seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, and I haven't looked up the numbers, so I'm going to pull them up. We'll go to it real quickly here.
See, what is he in conference play? Or when you get that?
Well, that's what I'm gonna get. Let us see. Purdue, almost out of the top 10 in Ken Pound at 9th. So Fletcher Lawyer, so he was 1 for 3 today from 3 against UCLA, 1 for 6. So that makes him 2 for 9 in these 2 losses. The USC win, 0 for 3. So that's 2 for 12 in the last 3 games. The Iowa win, which was another one that they probably should have lost. Well, he was 1 for 3. So that makes him 3 for 15 in the last 4 games. And we know this by now in year 4 of the Fletcher Lawyer experience, right? If he's not hitting threes, what is he giving you?
Yeah.
And Purdue does have other guys like,
Meyer
Cox,
today looks like he's
Meyer. Yeah. They've got this freshman, Benter has played reasonably well for them. And is a better defensive player. He's a better athlete than Lawyer. So I think when you're asking about Lawyer, that's the deal there. He's not shooting well. And if he's not shooting well, he shouldn't play ahead of some of these guys, in my mind. And I think, Matt Painter's a smart coach. It's what's surprising about it is you're normally used to a veteran with that kind of experience having their best year. But, it doesn't always work that way. If you think at Michigan State, I can come up with a few guys. Adam Ballinger, who was really good his junior year, was not great his senior year. Chris Hill, arguably the worst season of his MSU career was his senior year. He ended up losing a starting spot. And he was still a guy they counted on, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So it does happen. And it seems to be happening to Purdue. Kaufman-Renn is the sense I've gotten from people who watch them, listening or reading people who watch them more closely than I do, is that the addition of Oscar Clough, who's played well, has maybe had the effect of taking TKR's game a little bit off kilter. He's, because of the way they both play, you remember last year, Kaufman-Renn was just a monster in the post.
But he was forced to play the 5, which we said is not his natural, size or position, right?
Defensively, it's not his natural position for sure. But offensively, I think maybe we were all a little too quick to assume, well, the move to the 4 is fine.
Yeah.
I don't know that it has been fine. I know this much. I think they can get back into shape enough where they're a threat to go to the Final Four and maybe win a national championship, even if Fletcher Lawyer doesn't really find it, because they've got a bunch of other options.
Yeah.
I don't know that I believe that to be the case if they can't get Kaufman-Renn back on track. I think he's too important, because then if he plays the way he's been playing recently, then what are you left with? We got Braden Smith, who's been great, and Clough, who's played really well, but is that enough? I would also say they're showing some holes defensively. Their overall numbers don't look that way, and that was a big problem last year. Remember, they couldn't rim protect last year at all. Well, that's gotten better as they've added more size, but lately it hasn't looked great. And to make matters worse, they've now had 2 straight games where down the stretch, they can't do anything defending the 3. Bilodeau killed them at Pauley. And today it was Ivasic and then a couple of other guys at the end. I mean, Illinois, I was just in that game where I think we were under 4 minutes to play, and I was just about ready to say Illinois is going to rue all the free throws they missed, because they missed a bunch down the stretch.
I know.
They're going to rue it. They had every chance to win this game, and they blew it at the free throw line, and then they go and hit 4 triples in a row.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but Purdue, I mean, it's not great right now. There's certainly every bit of potential that the ship can get righted, because there's a lot of talent and a lot of experience and a very, very good coach. But, man, it better start showing up quickly.
Yeah, they seem like they really, really, really struggled getting defensive rebounds, and then also
But Illinois is a great rebounding team.
Yeah, they are. But there were some that were just like,
no,
come on,
I
guys, you
agree.
gotta.
I agree. Even when you say Illinois is a great rebounding team, should that be happening if you're Purdue? No, you can't accept that.
It was really weird. I feel like most of the time I was watching that, it looked like Purdue was switching everybody. So suddenly, like, Kaufman or Braden Smith's guarding, Ivisic or something like that. It's a really weird sort of, and I think that's why Wagler just got like a gazillion points, because he kept getting matched up with, they do a pick and roll. He'd have their big on him and just go by him, blow past him, or just back up and hit a three. He got really, really comfortable in that game. It's surprising me that they didn't switch away from that defense, I guess, to try something different.
Remember too that, 3 years ago, and they're still kind of playing with the same principles. Illinois changed their offense to be very, very matchup oriented. So it incorporated a lot of principles that you see in the NBA, by which I mean, they're really the whole deal is it's less focused on, well, let's see if we can create, like Michigan State is not as set heavy as a lot of dummies think they are, but they do run a fair amount of sets, not exclusively. They do read and react stuff, but they do run sets where, okay, this is designed to get this guy a shot in this spot on the floor, right? We see it all the time. Illinois doesn't really play that way. Illinois wants to keep forcing you to switch until they find the matchup that they believe they can exploit, where there's a guy guarding one of their guys who can't guard him. And it worked really well 2 years ago. And it didn't work so well last year. Now, they've also added the 3-point happy stuff, which, giveth and taketh away as
today giveth.
But I'm with you. But that is by design. That's what Illinois looks to do. They want to create mismatches. And fair play to them, because you know what? To me, the single biggest separator between the college game and the pro game is that. And this is even true for Michigan State at times. It is maddening to watch. If you watch a diet of NBA games and you see that mismatches get punished relentlessly, not just that teams try to go at it, but that teams successfully go at it. They make you pay regularly for mismatches. In college, so many times, not only do they not make you pay, they don't even try. How many times are you watching a game and you see you were just talking about it, a big man being guarded in the post by Braden Smith, and the team doesn't get the ball to that big man. The ball never gets there. Forget him missing the shot. He doesn't even get a shot. Happens all the time. Illinois is an anomaly in the college game in that they look to create those situations, and they're reasonably good by college standards at exploiting them.
All right. Well, I think we'll talk about Bediako and Alabama and Nate Oates at maybe the pregame.
Yeah, I got plenty to say on that one too.
Do you have something to say on that? I'm shocked.
I got feelings. Yeah. Nate Oates, a bastion of integrity, crying about the effect on high school kids that the guy who signed with Baylor in December has. And here he is, not a month later. Anybody, I'll just look, and we leave it with this. And I made this comparison on the Spartan mag board already. Said, for those of you who are the equivalent of the Japanese soldier found in an island in the South Pacific in a cave in 1953, still fighting the war, who believed that there was some chance that Nate Oates would be Tom Izzo's successor at Michigan State because he happened to coach several years at Romulus High School. It's over. It's over. This whole story is not that it needed to happen. It didn't. He was never going to be that guy. But, and that also presumes that he would want it, which I don't know is the case either. But he was never, ever going to be that guy for a million reasons. But this is one of them right here. What's gone on with this Bediako situation. That's one of them.
Yeah. What's worse is probably not even the worst thing he's done while he's at head coach.
No, as I saw somebody point that out on Twitter. They said, what's funny is seeing people just coming to this story and not realizing that this isn't the worst thing he's done.
The kid had murdered someone.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back, of course, very soon. A big turnaround, quick turnaround as Michigan State turns around, heads out on the road again, out to Piscataway, New Jersey, for their first of 2 matchups against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So until next time, the Final Four is now on the schedule. Go Green.